We live?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's get started. 7 o'clock. Call the Westfield, Washington Township Advisory Planning Commission to order for December 7th, 2020. Will the staff please call the roll to note the presence of a quorum?
Ms. Berkman?
Here.
Mr. Graham?
Present?
Forkay?
Here.
Mr. Johns?
Here.
Dr. Kelleher?
Here.
Mr. Maui?
Here.
Mr. McCarty?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Ms. Boljeric?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next up is consideration of approval of the minutes of November 16th, 2020. Having had opportunity to review those minutes, are there any additions, corrections, or comments?
Those minutes were actually tabled to the next meeting.
Oh, yeah. If I would have read that next line, I apologize. That's what happens when I print this in black and white. Moving on, next would be reviewing the rules and procedures this evening. We do have an item that's up for consideration. We have several public hearings to go through this evening. Would staff please review those rules?
Yes, due to the COVID-19 emergency as declared by the Governor of Indiana, the format and conduct of the meeting has been modified to comply with executive orders regarding the conduct of public meetings, public hearings, and public gatherings. Relevant portion of the Indiana open door law have been amended or suspended during the pendency of this emergency. For all petitions, tonight's meeting will have the following structure. The department will summarize the petition and describe what action, if any, is necessary to be taken. Then the petitioner will be given up to 15 minutes to present to the Plan Commission. The president of the commission will call on each member to provide comments, questions, or concerns regarding the petition. The petitioner will then have a chance to respond to comments. If a member of the public has any comments regarding a petition this evening, they should be emailed to planners@westfield.in.gov with the petition name or number included in the subject line. Those comments will be forwarded to Plan Commission members and the petitioner. A few more comments for our Plan Commission members and petitioners this evening. Please have your email accessible during the meeting so you can read new comments as they become available. And also please mute your microphone when you are not speaking. Thank you.
Ms. Howard, there are no consent agenda items. We'll move on to the item of business 2010 PUD-14 Courtyards of Westfield PUD.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Pam Howard with the Community Development Department. Before you this evening for your consideration, we have a proposed new planned unit development district to be known as Courtyards at Westfield. This 33.5-acre site is located at the southeast corner of 151st Street and Town Road and is currently zoned AGSF1. The proposed ordinance would permit 94 courtyard-style single-family homes and includes specific standards to accommodate the proposed development. This item received a public hearing at your October 5th meeting, and several changes have been made to the proposed ordinance and exhibits since that meeting. These changes were outlined in the staff report and will be discussed by the petitioner during their presentation. This item is eligible for your recommendation this evening. At this time, I have Matt Skelton with Church Hill and Antrim who would like to make a presentation, after which both he and I are available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Howard. Mr. Skelton, proceed.
Can you hear me, Mr. President?
Yes, I can.
All right. Well, thank you. Good evening. For your record, my name is Matt Skelton. I'm a partner with Church Hill and Antrim with offices at 116 North Union Street here in Westfield. With me, I believe, on the call this evening or on the Skype meeting this evening is Jason Coffey with Epcon Communities. Linda Maneri with EMH&T Engineering, and Brett Huff with Kimley Horn Engineer. I won't go over the details that we covered at the last meeting. We were last before you on October 5th for our public hearing. And at that meeting, I think there was some good dialogue, and we left that meeting with two basic charges. At least that's how I kind of lumped them together. One was to consider incorporating some of the amenities that we had been contemplating that weren't in the text of the ordinance, but were either discussed or shown on exhibits into the text of the PUD. And so that has been accomplished. We've incorporated pickleball, which is also reflected on the concept plan, but it is included in the text of the ordinance, and also an outdoor fireplace gathering area in the clubhouse amenity area. And that's been incorporated into the text of the ordinance. The other one, which was probably the bigger one, was to coordinate with our neighbor some more and respond to the request that they had made regarding an enhanced buffer area along our shared property line. And so we took that item to heart, and we've spent a bit of time both internally and working with the neighbor to try to figure out how to accommodate that request. We probably went through 6 or 7 different iterations of concept plans trying to accommodate a 60-foot wide buffer area that was requested, and I'm happy to report that we were able to accomplish that. In doing so, there were a few changes made to the concept plan, not the least of which there's an elimination of about 5 lots that were casualties of that exercise. But we do have the 60-foot buffer. And we were able to bump up our buffer planting requirements to kind of beef things up a little bit. So that's all been incorporated in what was originally submitted for your consideration this evening. As of today, we received some input late last week and over the weekend, and we're able to respond and resubmit some materials today to your staff. I'm not sure, Pam, were those able to be distributed to the Plan Commission, or are we going over them for the first time here?
They were sent via email, but you'll be explaining most of the details.
Okay, so what you're seeing, there are a few changes made to the or proposed to the PUD ordinance in response to these requests, and those changes, a couple of them precipitated some new notations on the concept plan. So one of the items involved asking us to consider incorporating text into the ordinance that would restrict the location of doors or gates along the rear side of homes and courtyards on the lots that are identified on this concept plan with the circle. And you'll have to forgive me, they look red to me. If they're not red, I apologize, but they're in kind of that southwest quadrant. And so we have incorporated text that does in fact restrict gates and doors on the back sides of those courtyards and structures, and those the identified lots are the lots that applies to. Additionally, we have agreed to plant a few additional evergreen trees in the area identified on the concept plan near the silo area, the cursor's pointing at them, and this was at the request of the neighbor. And then in addition, we received a request. We had made representations in some of our materials about the behind the homes, how those areas will be used and maintained. They will be, in fact, commonly maintained and used as lawn and or landscaping area. And so we've incorporated text in the ordinance that would require that. We were planning to do that anyway, but that's the ordinance is beefed up, and we appreciate you folks are regulating, based on a land use and not an entity. And so if you have to plan on the worst. So if EPCON were to disappear, those rules would still be in place. So, and we're not planning to disappear, by the way. But with that, I think that concludes the changes that have been made to the ordinance. And if we receive a positive recommendation from the Plan Commission, it would be our plan to work with the staff to incorporate this exhibit that is in front of you right now, replace the concept plan with this exhibit, and also the redlined pages that were emailed to you earlier today. So we would appreciate your support of this proposal and happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Skelton. This evening we will start with Ms. Spalgeric. Any questions or comments for staff or Mr. Skelton?
Well, I do have a few. And first, I'd like to thank you for making some of those changes that have been requested. And I think that certain things have definitely improved due to that. I do, however, have some issues. In refiguring these lots, now we have even more rear facades facing Town Road. And when this was being presented to us, there was also talk of when you were coming in the entrance off of town, the streetscape aesthetic, and seeing the amenity area and that kind of view coming in. And now we've lost that in this iteration. So, I'm having a little bit of trouble with that, especially given that we have a reduced yard on town and some missing typical landscape. So can you tell me how that's going to work?
Sure. So, well, this was quite an exercise, and that's not doing it justice. Trying to rework this plan. We've learned a lot since we were before you last about how this site, the drainage on this site works. Everything north and west of the pipeline will travel west, and everything to the south and east of the pipeline will be captured, and then it travels to the pond to the east of Town Road that you can kind of see on this exhibit south of the church. And it'll be released at a controlled rate into that pond, and then it continues on down stream in the system. But the water amenity, it's more than, of course, just an amenity. It's infrastructure, and it has a function that it serves, and there really isn't another place we can put it. Believe me, it wasn't our preference to put it there, but it's where it has to be in order to work properly. And so with that fixed item, and then trying to minimize the number of homes, I think you accurately point out, I think there's 5 additional homes that have the rear sides facing the streets. The reason for locating the amenity area where we did, there would have even been more. The amenity area actually will have it's very, very well appointed, very high architecture, really nice landscaping, and it'll look very nice from Town Road. And we thought that would be important to folks. One thing to keep in mind about as we call the back of homes, these backs aren't traditional backs. These aren't these aren't swing sets. These aren't even back porches. There's really, it's going to look like a masonry wall with a 6-foot fence with then landscaping, and then a another fence, another 4-rail farm fence, and then another layer of landscaping between the fence and then the actual town road, for instance. And so, I mean, there's layers of things between town road and the rear elevations of these homes. But just keep in mind, the rear elevations of these homes are not, it's not the normal. Well, the reason that a lot of I think the concern about the visibility of the rear of homes is because of what they are, not just how close they are. Because you're looking, kind of into the back of a home, but in this case, you're really not. That's really not the case at all. So, I mean, that's what I would offer up. The width of our buffer has not changed since it was originally proposed. We hadn't received any comments about that. And in fact, in order to accommodate the 60-foot along the south and west sides, I mean, it really gets tight. I mean, we've really had to get creative to try to figure out how to accommodate that without just losing the whole project.
I also, Matt, thank you, but I noticed there's also some landscaping standards that it doesn't seem like they shouldn't be able to be met, but yet you're requesting to not meet them.
What specifically? It's going to be hard for me to respond to.
Clubhouse landscaping.
Say that again.
The clubhouse landscaping.
So what exactly is deficient? We actually landscaped the facility. I don't know.
And I'm trying to pull that up.
It's hard for me to respond to something this detailed on the fly. I'm sorry.
I believe too that was included in the staff report. And I apologize. I'm trying to pull that up now.
That's okay. I don't think there was an intention to really skimp. They were just actually landscaping an actual facility, not an abstract standard.
Yes, so the clubhouse landscaping standards in the PUD, they are requiring 6 ornamental or shade trees and 30 shrubs on the parcel, in addition to the external street frontage and buffer landscaping. The UDO would require 10 trees and no shrubs on the parcel, not taking into account external street frontage or buffer landscaping. So those 10 trees could have been achieved by that with no additional trees on the parcel per the UDOs.
And are you saying that the standard is met then?
What? Sorry, without looking at the
I know
the perimeter landscaping standards, it's harder. It doesn't look like, let's see, the buffer landscaping. It's going to depend on which buffer landscaping you do on the south. I guess there are shrubs required either way. So I believe that you will be meeting the UDO requirement for trees when you take into account the external street frontage and buffer landscaping and the additional landscaping that you would be providing for the specific standard. So I think that maybe Cindy's point is that you're meeting the UDO standard. So why is that in there? Is that correct?
I'm sorry, you guys kind of cut out. I only heard part of it. I'm sorry.
I think what Pam was saying is that we are complying with the UDO standard, and if the language is confusing, I apologize, but I believe we're complying with the UDO requirement.
Yes, so if you're requiring in the clubhouse landscaping a minimum of 6 ornamental or shade trees and 30 shrubs, whereas the UDO would require on a single acre parcel 10 trees and no shrubs, you're getting 6 from that, plus whatever trees are included on that parcel on the external street on Town Road and on the south buffer line. those trees should get you to the 10 trees, assuming the parcel is 1 acre.
It is.
And I think that, and maybe I was looking at some old information or something too, and I apologize for taking us that way, but thank you for the input. I think I'm done.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Schmitz, questions or comments?
Just thanks to the petitioner for the changes that you made, and I think with the explanation of the buffers on 151st and on town, I'm comfortable with it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schmitz. Mr. McCarty, questions or comments?
Just want to say thank you as well. I think pretty much all of them are. And as long as the neighbors are happy, I'm happy. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Maui, questions or comments?
I think it looks good. I do not have any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Johns, questions or comments?
I'd like to thank Matt Skelton and Jason Coffey. I think that the changes that they made are really exciting. The new configuration, the concept plan, I think you guys are going to be very happy with. I think it's much more marketable than the last one was, and I like the addition of the pickleball court. Yeah, I applaud you. I think you made some great changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Horke, questions or comments?
Everything I might have commented on has already been addressed, so I'm good. No further questions or comments.
Thank you. Ms. Berkman, questions or comments?
Yes, I just want to echo the other comments and thanking this petitioner for working with the neighbors on this. I'm happy that they are pleased with the buffer and the situation, and I think the conversations between the two parties. So thank you for that, and I will just echo a request from one of the neighbors that they would appreciate, if possible, getting tied into some of the utilities, if possible. And I see Mr. Nails on the call. So just if there's others that are responsible for that or can help make that happen for them, I know they would appreciate it. So thanks so much. I do appreciate all the efforts that have gone into this one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Kelleher, questions or comments?
Just wanted to echo everybody else's comments. This is what I would have come to expect from EPCON, so I'm very pleased. But I do have a procedural question. You sent out some changes just this afternoon, Matt, some red lines, and then this new concept plan with the red dots, and said something about you would work with staff to get those incorporated. How do we make a motion to make sure that those are as written, and maybe that's a question for staff?
Yeah, I can tell you what I would say, but I should probably defer to your legal counsel.
Okay.
Hey, Jenny, it's Brian.
Hi, Brian.
I would just make the motion based upon the presentation and exhibits that were presented tonight. And the staff will put it together accordingly.
Okay, and we did not see the exhibit tonight of the changes in the wording, but I'm assuming it would be what we were sent in an email this afternoon.
Yeah, if they're very simple. If Pam wants to, or Kevin wants to bring it up real fast, we can look at it. If that would be helpful, just for.
I think just to make sure everybody, because some people may not have seen this, it was sent late in the day. I just want to make sure everybody's on board with it.
Yeah,
So,
and that.
Kevin, if you're the lucky cursor operator, I think, if you want to pan down to the first they're redlined changes for everybody's convenience. Next page. Or it should
And
be.
just for clarification, this is on the agenda. It's the second to last exhibit.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Okay.
But
That's good.
So item number D, this in the ordinance identifies the southwest lots, which with the circle, and explains the prohibition of the doors and gates. And those the other red lines on the lettering is just because it threw off the lettering when we made that change.
Okay.
And then here's where we require the additional evergreens identified on the concept plan. And then on this is the final one here that speaks specifically about no accessory structures in the rear behind the homes, accessory homes, and they're to be commonly maintained as lawn or landscaping area.
Okay, and those are in the PUD we're voting on tonight, so perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Randall Graham, having no questions or comments, I would entertain a motion.
Okay, we'll move that we send a favorable recommendation based on the updated exhibits on the agenda and tonight's discussion.
Kelleher will second.
I have a motion made by Mr. Orke, seconded by Dr. Kelleher, to send 2010-PUD-14 Courtyards of Westfield PUD to the City Council with a favorable recommendation as presented. Will the staff please call the roll?
Ms. Berkman?
Yes.
Mr. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Horkay?
Yes.
Mr. Johns?
Yes.
Dr. Kelleher?
Yes.
Mr. Maui?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Ms. Boljaric?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, moving on. The remainder of our items this evening all require a public hearing. First of which being 2012-ODP-18, 2012-SPP-18, Spring Mills Center.
Good evening, members of the Commission. For the record, Caleb Ernest with the Community Development Department. This proposal is for the overall development plan and primary plat review of 4 blocks on approximately 55 acres located in the Spring Mill Center PUD. This project is located at the northeast corner of Spring Mill Road and 32. This item is up for a public hearing tonight. It has been properly noticed and advertised, and staff has received no public comments at this time. Randy Zentz of Commercial Links LLC is here tonight to make a brief presentation. He and I are both available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Zentz, go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. President and members of the Commission. My name is Randy Zentz, Zentz Consulting, 958 Bright Beam Court, Westfield, Indiana. I am here representing the petitioner, the Hale Group LLC. We, as Caleb mentioned, are requesting a primary plat and overall development plan review on a little more than 55 acres at the northeast corner of State Road 32 and Spring Mill Road, the PUD known as Spring Mill Center. Give you a little general overview of the project. This is a multi-use PUD that contains areas of enclosed industrial at the north end, approximately 18.7 acres, general office and general business as a secondary in the center, approximately 17.14 acres, and then general business around the perimeters on Spring Mill Road and on State Road 32, a total of around 16 acres. Currently, the property is under demolition, and you've probably seen a marked change in that corner. We are moving on and will be taking down the final structures probably this week. There is one center hopper tower and a couple of silos that we have to get taken down. And then in time, we'll end up taking down the EFS building along State Road 32, but that will come a little bit later in the project. So we're requesting this to move forward with our development. And I also have near Tyler Comstock with American Structure Point on the call if there's any engineering questions. That is all. Anything else I can answer? I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. This item does require a public hearing this evening. Open the public hearing on 2012 ODP-18, 2012-SPP-18, Spring Mill Center at 7:30.
At this time, we do not have any emails on this project.
Okay, we'll give it a couple minutes here. Ms. Howard, anything?
No, nothing at this time.
I will close the public hearing at 7:32. Dr. Kelleher, any questions or comments for the petitioner or staff?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Ms. Berkman, questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Mr. Horke, questions or comments?
Jorge has no questions or comments as well.
Thank you. Mr. Johns, questions or comments?
No questions or comments. Thank you.
Mr. Malley, questions or comments?
I have none. Thanks, Randy.
Thank you.
Mr. McCarty, questions or comments?
None. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Schmitz, questions or comments?
None from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Poljarek, questions or comments?
No, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. We will move on to the next item.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, 2012-ODP-19, 2012-SPP-19, Chatham Point.
Thank you again, Mr. President. Pam Howard with the Community Development Department. Before you this evening, we had a primary plat and overall development plan for 10 single-family residential lots on about 21 acres at the northwest corner of 203rd Street and Tomlinson Road in the Chatham Hills PUD District. This item is eligible for a public hearing tonight as it was properly noticed and advertised. Please note that in the staff report, we do describe 2 waiver requests that are related to the pedestrian network standards in the UDO, with one request being to only require a sidewalk along the east side of the internal street Chatham Point Lane, and the other request being to not require an external pedestrian path along Cox Avenue / 203rd Street. We did receive response from the Public Works Department saying that they do support this request, and that response will be included on the agenda for your next meeting when this item is eligible for a vote. Tonight is a public hearing only, and this will be back in front of you at a subsequent meeting for final consideration. I do have the petitioners with Hankey Development here this evening. They do not plan to present, but are available for questions, as am I if you have any of the department. Thank you.
Thank you. This item does require a public hearing this evening. I will open the public hearing on 2012-ODP-19, 2012-SPP-19, Chatham Point at 7:34 p.m.
I have no emails at this time.
Ms. Howard, anything?
No, still nothing.
All right, I will close the public hearing at 7:36. Ms. Spolgeri, questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Mr. Schmitz, questions or comments?
None for me, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McCarty, questions or comments?
None here. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Maui, questions or comments?
No questions or comments.
You, Mr. Johns, questions or comments?
No questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Horke, questions or comments?
Questions? No comments.
Thank you. Ms. Berkman, questions or comments?
No, thank you.
You, Dr. Kelleher, questions or comments?
None, thank you.
I have none, so we will move on. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda this evening is 2012-PUD-15 Somerset Pud.
Yes, thank you again. Pam Howard with the Community Development Department, filling in for Corey Harris this evening. Tonight we have a new PUD district known as the Somerset PUD, presented by Silverthorne Homes, which is a change in zoning for 61 acres, generally located at the southwest corner of 186th Street and Spring Mill Road. This would be a rezoning from the AGSF1 district to the Somerset PUD district. This PUD is proposed to include a maximum of 151 single-family detached dwellings with approximately 14 acres of open space. The proposed ordinance specifies lot and architectural standards and includes a concept plan, architectural exhibits, and character exhibits. This item has been properly noticed and advertised for a public hearing this evening, and we have received no public comments at this time. Caitlin Dofer with Silverthorne Homes is present this evening to make a presentation, after which both she and I will be available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome to proceed.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Dofer, Entitlement Manager for Silverthorne Homes. We are pleased to present tonight the Somerset PUD. Next slide, please. The property is 61 acres and located southwest of 186 and Spring Mill Road. Surrounding neighborhoods and uses include the Spring Orchard neighborhood to the west, Orchard View to the south, and Sundown Gardens to the east, along with future Lancaster development to the north. Next slide, please. Factoring in the site's unusual shape and drainage requirements, we've laid out the site plan to accommodate an entrance off of 186 and Spring Mill Road, along with connecting to 4 existing step streets in Spring Orchard and Orchard View. The project will have 151 lots and will feature our Silverthorne line of homes. Lots visible from 186 and Spring Mill Road will be required to have additional architectural details. In total, there are 14 acres of open space with amenities that include a trail network and access to amenities in Orchard View. To accommodate this, we are asking for PUD zoning. Next slide, please. The product Silverthorne Homes is our traditional single-family product. With our variety of interior options, exterior architectural details, and size of floor plans, these homes are designed to include features that the market expects of homes that average $375,000 and up. The project will offer single and two-story floor plans ranging from 1,800 square feet to 3,200 square feet. Options such as basements, sunrooms, and lofts only increase those square footages. Architectural styles include traditional, Tudor, Craftsman, and farmhouse. Next slide, please. Customer experience is very important to us, which is why a couple years ago we built our 3,900 square foot design center. Every home buyer gets to walk through with our professional design staff and choose every finish of their home. Unlike other builders that have moved towards finished packages, our home buyers get to individually choose the color of their siding, front door, shutters, what countertops they want, and even the placement of their windows and window styles. This results in a home that is uniquely their own, and at the end of the building process, each home buyer receives their own custom blueprints. Next slide, please. To conclude, we believe this is a great infill project for Westfield. The site plan, its density, and buffering are mindful of surrounding uses, and our new silver Thorne floor plans and elevations will feature hardy plank and masonry, which will preserve home values in the area. Thank you again for having us tonight, and with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you. Item does require a public hearing this evening. Open the public hearing on 2012-PUD-15 Somerset Pud at 7:41 p.m.
We have no emails at this time.
Okay, we will wait. Ms. Howard, anything?
No, still no emails. Thank you.
I'll close the public hearing at 7:43 p.m. Starting at the top, Dr. Kelleher, any questions or comments?
Yes, several. First of all, there are a lot of things about this project that are good and I like. I realize it's an unusual shape for a piece of property and an infill project, so you have some limitations. One of the things you stated was that you were going to be part of the HOA for Orchard, I can't remember it, but the one just to the south. And they do have some open space and things like that, so I think that works. This is not, however, an empty nester product. It's a single family product. And so I have a couple of concerns. Backyards are 15 feet deep. I can see that in an empty nester project, but not necessarily in a single family home. So that concerns me. They are often, everything is back to back except the ones that face the pond and the perimeter. And so while you say you have a significant amount of open space, it is contained in a pond and the perimeter buffering along the, I guess it's the east side, which is not available to the rest of the homes in the neighborhood. So I don't see this as a very friendly neighborhood for families where they might walk and have a periodic pocket park or some view sheds. They don't get any of that. And those are the things that concern me. I think that's it.
The petitioner care to respond?
Sure. So the backyard comment, just to clarify, our backyard setback is 15 feet deep. So that just allows for families who maybe want to add on a patio or a sunroom to be able to do that. So if they choose to. If they don't, then they'll certainly have a bigger backyard. And as far as the amenities go for Somerset, as you mentioned, they will have access to Orchard View. And then on top of that, we would also look to pay for memberships to the Y for these families as well, which is something we did in Orchard View.
Okay, I'm a little confused by the backyard. The setback is 15 feet.
Correct.
So they have 15 feet between the back of their house and the back of their yard, which seems awfully shallow for a single family home that might have kids.
That's just at a minimum. There will certainly be backyards that are greater than that.
Okay, I guess I would like to see maybe a spread then or something, because they could all be 15. Remember, this isn't written necessarily for you and your company. It could be anybody who might come in and develop it later. So someone, not you, but someone else could come in and build all these houses with backyards that are only 15 feet deep. And that just doesn't seem appropriate to me for a single family home with kids. And again, this is a grid pattern. Some of the things that we didn't want to see in our new suburban, in our comprehensive plan, it's just straight streets with everything, next to each other, no vistas, no pocket parks, just one house after another for long runs. So those are my concerns.
Thank you. We understand that, and like you said, unfortunately, with the shape of the parcel and the existing stub streets, we were a little limited on creativity with the land plan.
Yeah, well, some creativity could be achieved by doing a pocket park instead of a home. There's a lot of room for creativity. You might lose a house or two, but as we saw in our first project, the courtyards, once they lost a few houses, their plan changed significantly from something that looked much like this to something that was much more, as I think Mr. John said, saleable. So if you would think about that, I would appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Berkman, questions or comments?
Thank you, Randy. I'll just echo everything that Jenny said. I'm struggling to see 14 acres of open space on this plan right now. I just don't see 25% of it looking like open space. I mean, there's that huge pond, but beyond that, I'm just echoing everything Jenny said. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Horke, questions, comments?
I kind of feel much the same. I was a little confused by the backyard setback, the way it was described. We've had the discussion already, but I would, like Kristen, echo the concerns previously mentioned and see if we can task Silverthorne with trying to figure out some way to make this layout just a little more unique and interesting. And I'm not going to try to be their designer, but would appreciate the benefit of some effort on their part before it comes back for the next visit to APC.
Thank you. Mr. Johns, questions, comments?
I guess I'll have to echo everybody else's comments to this point. I think it's a nice benefit to say that any homeowner, you're going to provide a membership to the Y, but it also kind of screams out loud and clear the fact that maybe this community is lacking something that you've got to provide that membership to the Y. So I would kind of ask you to go back and take a look at the common area and see what you can do to make this more of a livable neighborhood for families. Thank you.
Mr. Maui, questions, comments?
Yeah, thank you, Randy. So while I agree with all of the previous comments about features and creativity and enhancements that would make this more desirable, I guess what I would offer as a counterpoint from my current perspective is, not every housing development is equally as desirable or at equal price points. I'm not sure how better to say that gently. And so as an infill project, which I think is a good description for it, what I need to do, and I haven't recently in the context of this specific petition, is I'm going to be going back and looking at the comp plan and what we really say that we're striving to get, and basically beyond that, I'm not going to push to try to make this more than what it is. Again, trying to be a little bit gentle with my language there. Certainly, meandering streets and pocket parks and everything are better. They're nicer, and they also drive up the price point, and I get that. So since we need all the varieties and everything else like that, I'm kind of looking at it with that balanced perspective in mind yet while I continue to do my research on this one. And that's it. Thanks, Randy.
Thank you. Mr. McCarty, questions, comments?
Yeah, I'll just kind of agree with what's been said so far with my fellow board members here. With the backyards, the open space, it does look kind of have to, where's Waldo here, where to find it on the map. And I know I kind of said my piece at the community meeting, but since then, just hearing commissioners kind of spurning the wheels here a little bit. I know this was discussed at the community meeting, and we emphasized again tonight that you'd be a part of the Orchard View amenities, which again is very much so appreciated considering everything that we have problems-wise with the Spring Mill Trails PUD that I'm a part of. I mentioned at the community meeting then that it would be helpful for new neighbors moving in to just emphasize, hey, that little pool there that's on the corner, you guys aren't part of that. And with you mentioning offering a membership to the Y, I think that's fantastic. That would be a great amenity service for residents moving in here. But as both Jenny, John's, others have said, what else should be offered here? One thing that I've kind of struggled with, well, I guess two things I'll say here that I've kind of struggled with is the 2.5 per acre. That's 151 lots. I'd kind of like 2, maybe just flat out 2 or 2.2 units per acre to just lower that density, because we do have a lot of traffic as is, as I've mentioned before. Just a little bit to alleviate that, as the courtyards of Westfield did earlier tonight, which that turned out to be a much greater project. And by limiting some of those lots, you can get that pocket park opportunity. So I think that would be just great for the land use in general. And then just lastly, and I know it's already been mentioned, but having these long streets, and I think just about every neighborhood experiences this, it kind of turns into a test track of, trying to get people to speed to work or this or that. So I don't know what could be used to alleviate that besides, a little bit more creativity. I know you guys are limited in the space use here. I don't know, just in the future, maybe not maintained by you guys, but just in the future, maybe having some speed bumps or whatever, just because that one long street there just really concerns me of people blazing down it. But otherwise, that was just my piece.
Thank you. Mr. Schmitz, questions or comments?
I think I'll just leave it with what's been said already. I think anything I would say has been addressed already, so thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bulgaric, questions or comments?
I do have a few. I would like to say I agree with most everything that's been said tonight in the comments. I realize the challenges with this parcel. I also have some other concerns, and I don't know if this is necessarily going to happen, but the parcel owner to the east here, has talked about, at least in the past, doing events on that piece of property. And there's a very minimal, from what I understand, buffer yard between these homes and that. And there's supposed to be a mound in our buffer requirement, and that is not included in this buffer. So it's just something I'd like to add right now, that's a potential problem for me. I did bring this up at the community meeting, that I had concerns given what we've had happen at Urban Vines. I just don't want to see anything reproduced in that regard. It's no joke that I actually did not approve at council, Orchard View, and I have the same concerns with basically this is seemingly a continuation of what we had there. So I just wanted to let you know.
Thank you. I would give the petitioner an additional opportunity to respond to any of those comments or not.
Sure. For the mound comment for the eastern parcel, we actually are not able to put a mound in because we have to accept all of the drainage coming from the eastern property over to us. So that would prevent us from putting in that kind of buffer.
Okay. Is that it?
And then just for all the other comments that have been mentioned, we really appreciate the feedback and we'll certainly go over it, look at the plan and see what we can incorporate and what improvements we can make.
Very good. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next item on our agenda. 2012-PUD-16, Bridgewater Pvd Amendment, Animal Eye Clinic.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Commission. Pam Howard with the Community Development Department. Before you this evening, we have an amendment to the Bridgewater PUD District to accommodate a new specialty veterinary practice within the corporate village area. This 1.4 acre site is located on the west side of Gray Road, south of 161st Street, and was zoned the Bridgewater PUD in 2004. The proposed amendment would modify the permitted uses to allow specialty veterinary practice without boarding. No other changes are proposed to the ordinance. The petitioner held a neighbor meeting on November 30th, and a summary of that meeting is included as Exhibit 5. This item has been properly noticed and advertised for a public hearing this evening, and the petitioner is also requesting a recommendation to the City Council. I do have John Dobashewitz on behalf of the petitioners here to present, and after which both he and I are available for questions. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Pam. Just if you can let me know, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thanks, Pam. For the record, my name is John Dobashewitz. I'm a land use professional with the law firm of Nelson and Frankenberger. We represent the petitioner, Animal Eye Clinic. Present tonight, also on our meeting, is Jordan and Rachel Davis, the owners of Animal Eye Clinic. As noted by staff, the matter before the Plan Commission this evening is the recommendation for an amendment to the Bridgewater PUD. The real estate, as displayed on the screen now, is outlined in yellow. The parcel is located along Gray Road and in the Bridgewater Corporate Village. The surrounding commercial uses are in the Bridgewater Corporate Village. It has a common address of 7450 Kalani Drive, which is the street along the south perimeter of the subject real estate and is approximately 1.4 acres in size. The current zoning of the real estate is Area Z of the Bridgewater PUD, and the parcel is vacant in use. The applicant, Animal Eye Clinic, desires to develop a new clinic, veterinary clinics and hospitals without boarding on the real estate. Currently, the zoning of the real estate would not allow for this use without a PUD amendment consideration by Plan Commission and approval by City Council. Animal Eye Clinic is currently located in the Bridgewater Marketplace, south of this location near 146th Street at Gray Road, between Vitoros and Classic Cleaners in the multi-tenant building, which also includes the Pancake House in the same building to the south of the subject use. AEC is a specialized veterinary clinic or practice limited only to diseases and treatment of eyes, ophthalmology, and dogs and cats. Approval of the proposed amendment would only add, as allowed, the proposed use refined as currently shown in the proposed ordinance and as noted with no other boarding permitted. Additionally, all existing architectural design standards of the Bridgewater PUD pertaining to the real estate remain unchanged. In conclusion, we were contacted by staff late last week, at which time they shared additional comments regarding the request from Dr. Kelleher. In this regard, the applicant has further refined and clarified the proposed permitted use text as shown on the following page. Pam, if you can advance to that following text. The text in black is the language currently included in the ordinance, and the red would be additional text. If I might, the permitted use shall be limited to veterinary specialty medicine with no overnight boarding and no outside kenneling. And then the additional text, we clarify that animals kept overnight in the course of medical treatment is permitted. So that would be such a thing as observation of an animal overnight after procedure was conducted the previous day. Specialty services may include, but are not limited to, dermatologists, ophthalmologists, cardiologists, etc. The use shall not permit general veterinary medicine or 24-hour emergency clinic. Those were two things that the petitioner was asked to be given consideration of, two items that we had responded to favorably. The revised text makes it clear that overnight treatment and observation is permitted, but a 24-hour emergency clinic is not. We already know from staff that their interpretation of the request prior to this amendment identified in red that a 24-hour emergency clinic would not be permitted, but we thought it was appropriate to include this text so that there's no misunderstanding in the future, to provide assurances also regarding the permitted activity on the real estate. Finally, we did have a neighborhood meeting. The homeowners to the north, the house, attended that meeting. They subsequently provided a letter, which is included under the public comments section linked on the agenda, expressing no objection to the request that was presented to the Plan Commission. We would request that the Plan Commission consider making a recommendation to the City Council at the conclusion of this evening's meeting. Appreciate your time this evening, and be glad to answer any questions you have now or at the conclusion of your public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dabashewitz. This item does require a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing on 2012-PUD-16 Bridgewater Pvd Amendment Animal Eye Clinic at 8:02 p.m.
At this time, we have no additional comments.
Okay, we will give it a bit. Still nothing, Ms. Howard?
Correct, still no comments.
I will close the public hearing at 8:04 p.m. Ms. Bulgaric, questions, comments?
I just want to really say thank you. I appreciate that this current tenant in the Bridgewater is actually wanting to make the investment and build at that site. It's an incredible practice. My dog is a patient there, and I'll be happy to see them stay. I have no problems with the language as written.
Thank you. Mr. Schmitz?
No questions, no comments. Looks like a great plan.
Thank you. Mr. McCarty, questions or comment?
No questions or comments. Looks great. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Malley, questions or comments?
I have none, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Johns, questions or comments?
No questions, no comments. Thank you.
You. Mr. Horkay, questions, comments?
Same, no questions, no comments.
Ms. Berkman, questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Dr. Kelleher, questions or comments?
I would just like to echo Ms. Boljaric's comments. This is a great practice and a great place for it, and I'm glad they are building here. Thank you.
Thank you. Let the record show I agree with Ms. Bulgaric as well. And no further discussion. I will make a motion to forward 2012-PUD-16 Bridgewater Pvd Amendment Animal Eye Clinic to the City Council with a positive recommendation.
I will second, but I would like to add with the additional modifications presented tonight.
I will alter my motion to reflect Dr. Kelleher's second. Is that legal, Brad?
Sorry, I had trouble finding the mute button. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Then I will re-second.
Okay. Have a motion made by Randall Graham, seconded by Dr. Kelleher, to send 2012-PUD-16 Bridgewater Pvd Amendment Animal Eye Clinic to the City Council with a positive recommendation reflecting the modifications presented in this evening's meeting. Will staff please call the roll?
Dr. Kelleher?
Yes.
Mr. Maui?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Bolger?
Yes.
Ms. Bergman?
Yes.
Mr. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Forte?
Yes.
Yes.
You were cutting out on this end anyway, Pam. I'm not sure if anyone else can hear you.
I think I got everybody.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Move on to our last item of business this evening, which is 2012-PUD-17 Lindley Run PUD Amendment 1.
Yes, good evening, Plan Commission. For the record, Dane Crabtree with the Community Development Department. The item before you this evening is an amendment to the Lindley Run PUD specific to Area A. As you may recall, the Lindley Run PUD is located near the northeast corner of 191st Street and Grassy Branch Road. While the PUD in its entirety is 106.5 acres in size, Area A is approximately 13 acres in size. The current ordinance prohibits any building taller than 1 story within Area A. This amendment would modify that standard so that a building 1.5 stories, most likely a home with a finished loft space, could be built in Area A. This item is scheduled for a public hearing this evening. The department has received no comments. John Dobashewitz of Nelson Frankenberg is present to make a brief presentation. After the public hearing, if there are no concerns from the public or the Plan Commission, staff recommends sending a recommendation to City Council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dane. Again, for the record, John Dobashewitz, land use professional with the law firm Nelson Frankenberger. Dane, if you would advance to the next slide, please. While he's doing that, we represent the petitioner, Olthoff Homes, LLC. Present with me this evening on behalf of the petitioner is Derek Hayes of Olthoff Homes. As noted, the matter before you this evening is an amendment to the Lindley Run PUD. The subject real estate, Dane, if you would advance to the next slide. The subject real estate is outlined here in yellow. By way of general background, the Lindley Run Planned Unit Development is a residential subdivision approved in November 2018 and now under construction. The real estate, which is the subject of the amendment, is located north of and adjacent to 191st Street, that you see at the bottom of the screen, and east of Grassy Branch Road, immediately adjacent to Crossroads Church. Crossroads is the buildings that you see to the left of the screen of the area outlined in yellow. The proposed amendment request and pertains exclusively to Area A within the Lindley Run, as shown, and again, is the area outlined in yellow. The exhibit zooms in and provides a image here. The one at the top is the overall development. The one at the bottom zooms in and shows Area A exclusively. Olthoff Homes desires to add the option for residents of finishing a limited amount of living area above the first floor of single-story homes, resulting in a story and a half. Currently, the Lindley Run PUD permits only single-story homes in Area A, therefore requiring Olthoff to seek approval of the proposed PUD amendment. The homes, if you would, please advance to the next slide. This is Exhibit B of the amendment and illustrates an example of the difference in the home's appearance between single-story and story and a half. The homes on the left-hand column are single-story, and the adjacent home image in the right-hand column is of the same home with the added half-story above. One can see be the modest change in the roof line between the two options. All other applicable standards of the Lindley Run PUD remain in force, and again, the amendment only pertains to Area A of the Lindley Road subdivision. As was the case with the last petition, and in conclusion, in the event there are no questions which require further review, we would respectfully request the Planning Commission to consider forwarding this request onto the City Council with a favorable recommendation at the conclusion of this evening's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dobashewitz. This item does require a public hearing this evening. I'll open the public hearing on 2012-PUD-17 Lindley Run PUD Amendment 1 at 8:11 p.m.
At this time, we have no comments.
Ms. Howard, anything?
Nope, still no comments.
All right, I will close the public hearing at 8:13. Dr. Kelleher, questions, comments?
Only a comment. I just would like to give my appreciation for the professional way they have updated this, both by increasing the square footage and giving us new character exhibits. I think it's very well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Berkman, questions or comments?
No, I think the new character exhibits look really nice though. So thank you. No problem here.
Thank you. Mr. Horke?
No questions and no comments. Good to go.
Thank you. Mr. Johns, questions, comments?
No questions, no comments. Thank you.
Mr. Maui, questions, comments?
I think this revision is a modest but nice enhancement, and it still fits well within the context. It looks good to me. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. McCarty, questions, comments?
I'll just echo the sentiments said so far. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schmitz, questions or comments?
None from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bulgaric, questions or comments?
None, thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Maui actually said what I wanted to say. I agree, and I think what Tisher is asking for actually enhances the community. So there's no further discussion. I would entertain a motion.
This is Kelleher. I will make a motion to send a positive recommendation to the City Council for 2012-PUD-17.
McCarty will second.
I have a motion made by Dr. Kelleher, seconded by Mr. McCarty, to send 2012-PUD-17 Lindley Run PUD Amendment 1 to the City Council with a positive recommendation. Staff, please call the roll.
Mr. Maui?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Ms. Bulgaric?
Yes.
Ms. Berkman?
Yes.
Mr. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Horke?
Yes.
Mr. Johns?
Yes.
Dr. Kelleher?
Yes.
Carries.
Thank you,
Thanks
Mr.
everyone for your time this evening.
Thank you. Any additional reports or comments from Planning Commission members? City Council liaison?
No comments. Thank you.
Board of Zoning Appeals?
PDA meets tomorrow, so you'll have to wait another 2 weeks to be captivated by my report.
I am on the edge of my seat, Mr. Schmitz. Anything from staff? Need to close the meeting out.
No, nothing specifically. We are, just a heads up, we are anticipating having a second meeting in December in 2 weeks. So it'll be in the same virtual format. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Todd. No additional business to conduct. Randall Graham will make a motion to adjourn.
Kelleher will second.
I have a motion made by Randall Graham, seconded by Dr. Kelleher to adjourn tonight's meeting. Would staff please call the roll?
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Ms. Boljeric?
Yes.
Ms. Bergman?
Yes.
Mr. Graham? Mr. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Forte?
Yes.
Mr. Johns?
Yes.
Dr. Kelleher?
Yes.
Mr. Maui?
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.